The morning Marcus Chen complimented the woman behind the front desk. He had no idea that within 3 weeks, his entire understanding of professional boundaries would collapse. Marcus was 41, a technical illustrator who spent most days hunched over architectural drawings in a converted loft downtown. He had been divorced for 2 years from a woman who loved the idea of a creative partner until creativity started looking too much like solitude and graph paper. The split was quiet, civilized, and left him functional but tired. His therapist, Dr. Brennan, had been helping him rebuild what Marcus privately called his capacity for optimism. It was slow work. The receptionist's name was Lila Reyes. She was 38, wore reading glasses on a thin silver chain, and had eyes the color of amber under warm light. Marcus noticed this on a Tuesday morning in late October when he arrived 15 minutes early for his 9:30 appointment. The waiting room smelled like lavender and old magazines. Lila was reorganizing a filing cabinet behind the desk, and when she turned to greet him, the morning sun came through the window and caught her face at an angle that made him forget, briefly, that he was supposed to be emotionally unavailable. "Morning," she said. Her voice was even, professional, slightly amused by something he couldn't identify. Marcus signed the intake sheet. "Morning. You have beautiful eyes, by the way." The words left his mouth before his brain could intervene. Lila blinked once, then smiled in a way that suggested she had heard worse and better, and everything in between. "Thank you," she said. "Dr. Brennan will be with you in a few minutes." Marcus sat down in the corner chair and opened a magazine about sustainable architecture. He did not read a single word. When Dr. Brennan called him back, Marcus spent the session talking about work deadlines and his sister's upcoming birthday, carefully avoiding any mention of the fact that he had just complimented a stranger like a man who had forgotten how compliments worked. The following Tuesday, Lila was not at the desk. A younger woman with a name tag that read Jen Temp greeted him instead. Marcus checked in, sat down, and told himself it meant nothing. People took vacations. People called in sick. People had lives that did not revolve around being observed by emotionally stalled technical illustrators. Dr. Brennan opened the session with her usual question. "How was your week?" Marcus described a project that had gone well, a lunch with a friend that had gone poorly, and a recurring dream about a house with too many staircases. Dr. Brennan nodded, took notes, and then set her pen down with the deliberate care she used when she was about to say something he would not want to hear. "Marcus, I need to tell you something that's come up since our last session," she said. "Lila, my receptionist, has resigned. Her last day was Friday." Marcus felt his stomach drop in a way that had nothing to do with therapy and everything to do with a compliment he had delivered like a man throwing a stone into a well. Was it because of what I said?" Dr. Brennan's expression did not change. "She didn't cite you specifically, but she did mention that she's been feeling uncomfortable in her role here. She's moving to a position at a legal office across town." Marcus stared at the bookshelf behind her head. There was a small ceramic owl on the second shelf. It had been there for 2 years. He had never noticed it before. "I told her she had beautiful eyes," he said quietly. "Last week. I didn't mean to make her uncomfortable. I don't know what I was trying to do." Dr. Brennan leaned forward slightly. "Marcus, I'm not here to assign blame, but I do think this is worth exploring. What do you think you were hoping would happen when you said that?" Marcus did not have an answer. The session ended badly. He left the building through the side exit, walked 3 blocks to a coffee shop he had never been to before, and ordered something with too much foam. He sat by the window and watched people walk past with the focused determination of people who had not just been informed that their poorly timed compliment had driven a woman out of her job. By the time he got home, the guilt had settled into something heavier. He opened his laptop, typed out an email to Dr. Brennan asking for Lila's contact information so he could apologize, then deleted it before hitting send. He spent the rest of the evening staring at blueprints and accomplishing nothing. Thursday morning, Marcus woke to a text from his sister Claire. "Coffee tomorrow? I need to vent about Mom's book club drama." He agreed, grateful for the distraction. They met at a diner near Claire's office, the kind of place that served breakfast all day and had waitresses who called everyone sweetheart. Claire ordered pancakes and launched into a story about their mother's friend Margaret and a dispute over a book about bees. Marcus nodded at the appropriate moments and drank coffee that tasted like it had been made in 1987. "You're not listening," Claire said halfway through her second pancake. Marcus set his mug down. "I am. Margaret thinks the book glorifies colonialism through apiary metaphors." "Okay, you were listening, but you look like someone ran over your dog." Marcus did not have a dog. "I think I got someone fired," he said. Claire put her fork down. "Explain." He told her the entire story, from the compliment to Dr. Brennan's announcement to the email he had not sent. When he finished, Claire was quiet for a long moment, then reached across the table and tapped his hand twice with her knuckles. "First of all," she said, "you didn't get her fired. She quit. Second, you need to stop catastrophizing. Third, if you feel that bad about it, find her and apologize like an adult." Marcus stared at her. "How am I supposed to find her? Dr. Brennan isn't going to give me her contact information." Claire pulled out her phone. "What's her full name?" Lila Reyes. Claire typed for 30 seconds, then turned the screen toward him. There was a LinkedIn profile with a professional photo. Lila was wearing a gray blazer and the same silver chain glasses. Her new position was listed as Administrative Coordinator at Harman & Strauss Legal Services, downtown. There, Claire said. Go apologize. Bring coffee. Don't be weird. Marcus left the diner with a plan he did not fully believe in. He spent the weekend drafting and deleting mental scripts. By Monday afternoon, he was standing outside Harman & Strauss with 2 cups of coffee and the kind of nervous energy that made his hands feel like they belonged to someone else. The lobby was all marble and glass. A directory near the elevators listed Harman & Strauss on the 3rd floor. Marcus took the stairs because elevators felt like bad luck. When he reached the 3rd floor, he found a reception desk identical to Dr. Brennan's, but newer. Lila was sitting behind it, typing something into a computer. She looked up when he approached, and her expression moved through recognition, confusion, and something close to wariness in the span of 2 seconds. Marcus, she said. It was not a question. He set one of the coffees on the desk. Hi, I know this is strange. I wanted to apologize. For what I said. I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable enough to leave your job. That wasn't my intention, and I'm sorry. Lila looked at the coffee, then at him, then back at the coffee. You think I quit because you complimented me? Marcus felt the ground shift slightly beneath him. Doctor, Brennan said you mentioned feeling uncomfortable. Lila leaned back in her chair and folded her arms. Her expression had moved from wariness to something sharper. I quit because Dr. Brennan's office manager kept scheduling me for weekend shifts without asking, the heating system didn't work, and I got offered more money here. Your compliment was weird, but it wasn't why I left. Marcus stood very still. So I didn't ruin your life. Not even a little bit. She picked up the coffee and took a sip. This is good, though. Thank you. Marcus felt something unclench in his chest. I've been catastrophizing for a week. Clearly. Lila set the cup down and tilted her head slightly. Do you do this a lot? Assume you're responsible for other people's decisions? The question landed with more accuracy than Marcus was prepared for. My therapist would probably say yes. Lila smiled. It was small, dry, and made her look like someone who had heard enough therapy speak to find it both useful and occasionally ridiculous. Well, for the record, you're not responsible for mine. But I appreciate the apology. And the coffee. Marcus nodded. He should have left. He knew he should have left. Instead, he said, Can I ask you something? After showing up at my new job unannounced? Sure. Why did you smile when I said that? About your eyes. Lila considered the question, because it was genuine. Awkward but genuine. Most people who say things like that are performing. You weren't. Marcus did not know what to do with that information. I wasn't trying to perform. I was trying to function. I could tell. She glanced at her computer screen, then back at him. I have a meeting in 10 minutes. But if you want to continue this deeply strange conversation, I get lunch at 1. Marcus left the building at 12:58 and returned at 1:02. They walked to a sandwich shop 2 blocks south. Lila ordered turkey on rye and paid for it herself before Marcus could offer. They sat by the window. The afternoon light was pale and cold. So, Lila said, unwrapping her sandwich with the precision of someone who had strong opinions about condiment placement. What do you do when you're not apologizing to receptionists? Technical illustrator. I draw buildings that don't exist yet. That sounds lonely. It is. But I'm good at it. Lila nodded. I was a paralegal for 6 years before I burned out and decided I'd rather answer phones. People think that's a downgrade. I think it's a boundary. They talked for 43 minutes. Lila had been divorced for 3 years from a man who loved the idea of a driven woman until driven started looking too much like unavailable. She had a dog named Brick who was afraid of hardwood floors. She read mystery novels in which no one ever actually got murdered, just deeply inconvenienced. Marcus told her about his sister, his recurring staircase dream, and the fact that he had not been on a date in over a year because he could not figure out how to want something without immediately assuming it would go badly. That sounds exhausting, Lila said. It is. She checked her phone. I need to get back. But this was good. Strange, but good. Marcus walked her to the building entrance. Before she went inside, she turned and looked at him with an expression he could not quite read. If you want to do this again, she said, you can ask. I'll probably say yes. Marcus felt his heart do something it had not done in 2 years. Would Thursday work? Thursday works. Thursday became the following Tuesday, which became the Saturday after that. They met at coffee shops, bookstores, a farmer's market where Lila bought 6 jars of honey and refused to explain why. Marcus learned that she laughed at bad puns but not good ones, that she had once considered becoming a librarian, and that she thought most people talked too much when what they really needed was to sit quietly and let the other person exist. By the 3rd week, they were sitting on Marcus's couch drinking tea and watching rain hit the windows. Lila had her legs tucked under her, and Brick was asleep on the rug. The dog had overcome his fear of hardwood long enough to follow Lila inside and immediately pass out. Can I ask you something? Lila said. Marcus set his mug down. After everything, yes. Are you always this careful? Depends what I'm trying not to break. Lila looked at him for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was quieter. For the record, I'm not made of glass. Marcus moved closer. Lila met him halfway. The kiss was careful, deliberate, and tasted like chamomile. When they pulled apart, she smiled in the same way she had smiled that first morning, except now he understood what it meant. Good, she said. 6 months later, Marcus stood in Dr. Brennan's waiting room for the last time. Lila was no longer behind the desk. Jen, who had stopped being a temp, greeted him with a smile. Dr. Brennan opened the session by asking how he was doing. Better, Marcus said. A lot better. A year after that, Marcus and Lila stood in Claire's backyard under string lights that swayed in the wind. Claire officiated. Brick wore a bow tie and barked once during the vows. Marcus's mother cried. Lila's father made a joke about technical illustrators that no one understood, but everyone laughed at anyway. When Marcus kissed his wife, he thought about a compliment he had delivered badly, a resignation that had nothing to do with him, and the strange, unreplicable luck of showing up to apologize for something that had never needed an apology in the first place. Sometimes careful is just fear with better manners. Sometimes the best thing you can do is show up, say the truth, and let someone else decide what it means. What would you have done if you realized your words might have changed someone's life, even if you were wrong about how? And have you ever apologized for something only to discover the story was completely different than you thought? Tell me your story in the comments. If you liked this one, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.